Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Hallmark movies.
I'm Dan, and I despise Hallmark movies.
And I'm Ian Harding, and I've done a couple. So
And this is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast.
Brandon and friends host this podcast.
We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Ian, right off the bat? Before we do this, before we press record, Dan does a spiel about what we're going to do for the intro. And
That's right.
before that, he said that we were going to play an annoying little music, like an annoying music we'll play.
Yeah.
Did you find that annoying, the music that played?
I mean, I wouldn't work out to it. Like, I think it's there. I mean, a lot of feel like Christmas songs have that sort of like repetitive nature, and that's why we remember them. And it's like, so a bunch of people can sing them, and yours sounded very similar. It feels like a song of a generation, you might say.
He's a politician. He's a politician, I can tell already, which is wonderful. He's not going to say no, even though he knows that I'm right. He's not going to say that.
Was it like grating to my soul? Yes. But I applaud you for the effort,
And I got to be honest, we got to
fair.
skip to the end first. You said you've been in a couple of these. I thought Ghosts of Christmas Always was it. Have you done? Do you had something in the can I don't know about, or did you do one I'm not familiar with?
There is something in the can. I realize
Gosh, we just got you in so much trouble.
and Ian gets sued. How about this? Well, I feel like we can compromise. There is something else that's in the pipeline,
Ooh.
but actually can't speak about it yet because and not like I signed an NDA, but mainly that it's going to be a new thing, and I think as you all are probably pretty aware, the Hallmark is probably going to roll out a whole slew of things this year, and I'm a part of something else, which is annoyingly vague.
Cut it. We got it. We got what we needed. Ian, it's been great. It's been fun. Thanks. We got the clip. We got
Ian Harding is going to be in something else.
Actually, just out of sheer spite, I'm going to pitch to Hallmark. It's like, I got to do something, and we have to call it something else.
We gotta call it something else.
Yeah, I told these guys I was in something else. My hands are tied.
Ian, thank you so much for joining us. This is very exciting. I'm like laughing to myself a little bit about how upset many people that are listening to this or watching on Philo are going to be when they find out that we have never seen, nor do we know anything about Pretty Little Liars.
Just giving that up right now.
And so we're not going to dive deep into that because honestly, at this point, I don't know. What am I going to do?
Those three things. Pretty, probably.
Yeah.
Liar. Were you one of those in the show? Were you little?
I was younger, if you mean, and like I've seen some photos of it now. And I'm like, oh my god, the ravages of time. But yeah, I was with the right amount of silicone and things. So it's kind of that was probably prettier then. And
Little
a lot. Lies. I mean, I feel like nobody was honest on that show, and we also had to master the art of. Actually, even in doing press, like if I was doing something like this for Pretty Little Liars, I loved lying, just making up red herrings. Like I would sometimes give people like, and I got pretty good at it too, where I'd say something like, it is tough, like having this be like my last, or and then try and like cover it up. And they're like, last season, is he dying? And then I did that a couple of times, and people thought.
Well, now I don't actually know if you have something else for Hallmark. Now everything is up in the air.
Yeah,
my gosh!
Now, mind tricks.
Ian, can you truthfully tell us where you're from and where you got the acting bug? Like, were you in some school plays or what was going on there?
Yeah, by the way, I'd also like to call out for those of you who are watching this. I'm still very much have the acting bug, as you can see from my crap. Like this is like I'll do self tapes on this thing, and this camera's clear. Like I don't know how to zoom out on the. So this is what's happening here.
What's the last audition you did back there right now? What is it?
I also can't say that was a nice. They have happened, which is nice. Which I'm always pleasantly surprised. But I guess where I'm from, where I got the acting bug. I grew up in Northern Virginia, like right outside Washington, D.C. And both parents were sort of, military or worked for the federal government. And so very much not in the entertainment industry. And I went, like I grew up singing in choirs and everything. Like my mom's side of the family is very performative. Like everybody sings. And that's why I sound like a news anchor and have since like the 6th grade. So the first thing that changed in my body in puberty was I sounded like this, except I was a child.
I mean, it's working for you now, but that had to be off-putting for 12-year-old Ian Harding. Like that had to be.
Can I have the nachos?
Excuse me, I believe you're in my locker.
Well, I would come, or I would speak to people on the phone or something, and then we'd meet in real life, and they were kind of like, "Oh, you're not 28." Oh, this is weird. And they're like, "No, I'm 11, and I won't be able to drive for many years." But yeah, no, I went to this sort of all boys private school for high school, and it was very sports oriented, and I was athletic, but I wasn't like national team level, which was like most of these guys. And so they had a drama program, and where a lot of the local girls' schools would come and try out, and it'd be like co-ed sort of situation. And then and so I ended up doing that, discovering that I really loved it and had some talent for it. And then I just said, like, I kind of want to do this. And I went to a drama school for university, and then went out to LA after that. And now I'm talking with you.
So
a lot has been covered in
that's
that.
right. The rest is history. Your parents, both government employees, you said you wanted to go to an acting school for college. What was that reaction like?
Yeah, my parents were probably the most, supportive, lovey-dovey, like my dad was in the army and then was the editor for a while of a magazine called Soldiers Magazine. It's like, hooah. And yet he loves wearing Crocs and Hawaiian shirts. And he was I said, like, I think I want to be an actor, Dad. He was like, okay, well, don't suck at it, or whatever. Like, I mean, he was far more supportive than that. But I basically said, I think I want to go do some drama school stuff. And he was like, all right, we'll do the auditions. And if you get in, I think that's your answer. And you pursue that until you don't. And then you figure out something else to do. Mom was also very supportive. I think she was very pragmatic about it. And my mom is like a very to the point sort of. She was like, yeah, well, if you get a degree in it and you don't make it, you can at least teach it. I was like, which is not untrue.
That's right. That's right.
So I still might teach it at some point because as we can see here, auditioning is tough.
The new thing for Hallmark he has is at Hallmark University. If you can believe it. Yeah.
Man. That's great.
It's a gig. Yeah, it's a gig he's got teaching.
Going from Virginia to LA, what was that like? Was there a culture shock for you? Did it take you a long time to get used to the time zone situation? Because I'm still kind of confused by that.
Yeah. Oh,
the 3-hour time.
3 hour. Like, let's all just agree. Like, let's just do the one. I'm still on this idea, but anyway, for you, what was it like?
I actually had a bit of a rude awakening in that I went out to LA, and I had been auditioning a little bit in Pittsburgh, which is the city where I went to school, and it was like industrial things, or like a movie that came through town. And so I had some film experience, some being very small, and I had complete beginner's luck because I went out. It was literally the first pilot that I went out for in Los Angeles was Pretty Little Liars.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, and so even now, my concept of, excuse me while I move this microphone. My concept of auditioning is completely warped. I'm like, yeah, now I get this, and it goes for another 7 years, and they're like, no.
Yeah. Do you know how many people hate you in Los Angeles?
Totally, 100%. And it's because I said, oh well, I'm not going to get it, or statistically speaking, this is like winning the lottery, and so I had no hang-ups about it. I just kind of went in and saw it all as one big exercise, and then that was it. I mean, I think I really was expecting it to go for, it'd be great if it went for like a season or two. I could pay off my college debt, but that was it, I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Does working on a show for 158 episodes give you the ability now to just decide if like to be more picky with what you want to do?
Dan wants to know how much money you made.
I did not say that. I did not
just
say that.
just ask him a question. Just ask him how much
the
money.
blue screen is clear how much money he makes. I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know if you, after that experience, you didn't just jump back in and went, I'm going to be more selective, or were you just like, yeah, what's the next thing?
I think I should be more selective. However, for my own mental health, I think something that you hear about a lot, and usually around award season, which I guess is right now. I should pay more attention to that, but I don't. You hear a lot of actors that are like, look, I knew what I wanted to be, and I was selective, and I did that one thing, and here I am, Oscars, baby. But you never hear the fact that there are probably like 8 or 9 for every actor that says that. There are 8 or 9 other actors that you never hear from, because I think for me, I've always just loved working, and it's always been, play for me. And so I have been selective, I suppose, but mainly I just love being on a set and sort of figuring out how to make something work. Especially like sometimes you get like an audition or a meeting for something, and it's kind of bad, and and you're like, how do I make these people in the scene, they don't speak as humans speak. How do I make that work? And that's the fun challenge and it's also completely masochistic, because sometimes it doesn't.
So you get a script for an audition, you're like, this is terrible. Where's the audition? Where do I go? Is that what you do?
100%. Yeah. or I work on it a little bit. I'm like, oh, can I also just go off the rails with this? Like, he's supposed to be, like a handsome, charming guy that's supportive. I was like, what if he's a little bit of a jerk? Like, what if if they're looking for somebody who's just like the guy you bring home to mom, and I come in and give him, like, he's a little aloof, like a little crazy. Like, what would that do? So
how does that go for you?
Not great a lot. I mean, but it's fun. Yeah.
Do you have a memorably bad audition? Like a story that you're like, man, I went for it and that was not what they wanted me to go for?
Do you mean like from this week? Because no, I this actually happens quite a bit, where I just sometimes I want to like make it work, and so I just muscle myself into it, and you just realize when you inevitably see the person who gets it, when they're doing it, there's like a sense of ease, or like they're just a completely different person than you. You go like, oh, that's what they wanted. And I remember I auditioned for oh god, I mean there are a bunch. I've definitely I did one where I was traveling. I was abroad, and I was with my wife, and we were in Vienna, Austria, and my manager was like, Ian, you're perfect for this. Like, you gotta put yourself on tape. It's like due in 2 days. I'm like, I'm kind of vacationing, and it was before self-tapes really became a thing, and so I think we did it in front of like a fireplace or something. And I just got the sides, and I was like, look, I'm just gonna read the sides. I'm just gonna do it, and we're gonna be done with it. And it was I learned later, what was supposed to be like a very rom-com sort of comedy. I was unaware, and I did it full drama.
Yeah.
And it was actually, ironically enough, sort of similar to this. It was basically about a cop who passed away, and then he and his sister now solve crimes. But I did it like, wait, can you see me? It's just like, I could see you, as opposed to being funny. And so the casting director was like, what the, and
Yeah.
So yeah, that was brutal. There were probably about 40 of those. I think
No way.
It's all about taking your shot.
Was PLL, as the kids call it,
Oh, good.
made
Stop
up of like people like you that were new to the scene? And I should know this, but was it like mainly like new people? And what was that like, all working together and figuring out, hey, we're making TV?
Oh, I mean, the lead actresses definitely had more of the heavy lifting to do. They were on set all the time, 5 days a week, sometimes like multiple night shoots, and that was grueling for them. But I I look back at it with nothing but joy, and I'm so grateful for it, because it really felt like, yeah, we were all pretty new. Like two of the actresses had kind of done a few things before, Lucy Hale specifically, but for the most part, we were all just fresh little babies. And even though I was the only one playing my age, we were all, in our, mid 20s. And it was an absolute, like, again, I could not fathom that I was paid to do this. And there were times where like the scenes would be heavy and they're like, Ian, we need you to like really go there, because right now you're like kind of laughing, you're kind of you're kind of making light of a grim situation, but it's because I was just filled with joy the whole time.
I will say this: we're not here to talk Pretty Little Liars, but we are here probably under false pretenses. We didn't want to bring up the beef with you and Cole Sprouse, but we have to. I did read in my research here that you are a 7-time Teen Choice Award winner and an 8-time nominee, and the one time you lost, it is because one Cole Sprouse of Riverdale did beat you.
Wow.
So, Ian, is there anything you'd like to say to Cole
He's
now?
Big fan of the show.
I am so actually like really flattered that because for a second, as you said, Cole Sprouse, I was like, I know that I'm not on social media a lot. Has there been a feud that I have not been partaking in? I've never met Cole Sprouse. I've heard he's a delight, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. I think also by the tail end, oh God, this is gonna sound really ungrateful. I think I was so grateful to have those things. And I've now, because I don't like sort of surrounding myself with like awards. Like there aren't a lot of pictures of me around.
Aside from the Decky Award, which is coming in the mail.
It better. And this will be, for every Zoom call I have, it'll just be here.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's amazing. By the end, I'm happy that he won, because it also didn't mean that I had to go back to I don't know, wherever they had the award show. I could just be like, oh, I lost, I'm not coming. But
were you about to say Burbank? Is that what you're about to say?
Isn't it in Burbank? I forget where.
Universal or
is that the surfboard award show?
Surfboard award show.
So do you just have 7 surfboards? You can't house anymore. You can't afford an 8th one.
I don't have one. I have given them my cousin, my godparents, my dad, my mom. I think one of my childhood friends, I gave them to.
Yeah. Can we be on the list? Can we be on the list if you somehow wrangle another one of those surfboards?
It is going to be uncomfortable though, because the Decky is a surfboard, which is weird. It's weird, but it is. Sorry about that.
Wait, did you change it to a surfboard exclusively? Because like everybody else gets, like
we knew if you got it in the mail, you'd be like, this isn't an award.
Yeah.
Considering all the awards that I've gotten, none of them are statues. They're all kind of something else. I don't know what that says about the quality of my acting. That one's like a, pepper shaker and the other's a, surfboard and, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Decky is an actual trophy.
It's an actual award, so maybe that'll be a good start of things to come for sure.
Man. Well, thank you.
I one question about Pretty Little Liars. Like, every time that thing gets picked up for another season, like that's a big day for cast and crew. Everybody, gets to continue working. With a show that lasts 7-8 seasons, does it ever saturate? Does it ever become like a thing where obviously you love the crew, you love everybody, but you're like, hey, if this gets renewed, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm fine with that too. Do you guys as a cast ever get there, or where you're like, I want to make Pretty Little Liars for 15 seasons?
I actually really loved that how and when it came to an end. That's a really complicated question, in that I really love the people that I worked with. I loved, I'm also holding my dog back because they're doing work outside the house right now, and he hears them, and I just don't want him to like explode in the middle of this, and I scream some expletive. I I was so grateful for the work. I loved coming to work, and it is definitely exhausting, especially when you're doing 20 to 24 episodes a season, and I think sometimes any show, not just Pretty Little Liars, but there after a certain point you can't make any more episodes. The storyline is so wrung out, and the actors are over it, and things should come to a natural conclusion. But I am grateful for like the exact amount of time that it ran. I was also terrified for the end of Steady Employment. I mean,
Yeah.
it was it was one of those things where you know that you're so spoiled, that you're so lucky, but I knew that intellectually, but I didn't know it in my bones until immediately afterwards. And for like 8 months I didn't work, and that's actually brief for most actors, and it wasn't from lack of trying, and it wasn't I was like, oh, I want to try and move this direction and whatnot, and it just, for whatever reason, things didn't click. And so to answer your question, I feel like this is a long
No, you're doing great, man.
Even encompass it. I mean, yeah, I loved it. I was so grateful for it, and I think it lasted the right amount of time.
I saw that you were on an episode of Punk'd, and I just want to ask: is it real?
Is getting punked real? Or,
like when you watch unscripted, it's scripted to a certain extent. They're doing reshoots and stuff like that, but Punk'd feels real.
Yeah, it was my anxiety, my being bamboozled was completely real. I think what makes it sometimes feel staged or inauthentic is I was one of, I think, 3 people in one episode, and so they had to cut out a lot of the groundwork that was laid beforehand to dupe me. And so all that was left in was Lucy saying, "Hey, do you want to meet Banksy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go." And so she didn't say.
Come on, you thought you were going to get to meet Banksy?
Yeah, I thought I was taking part in this big street art thing in the middle of LA. Like, I met these other people. There was, like there were multiple rooftop shots or whatever. And then I go up and like people were in masks. And then at the beginning, like things started to feel a little strange. I was like, wow, this roof is like really well lit. And like it didn't,
but it's LA. It's like that's just how it is out there,
like,
right?
Light pollution is everywhere, right? That's why, So, and then like once the police showed up, and he kept trying to get me to. And first off, foolish me, I should have said something like, "No, let's just sit down." I'm like, I'll call my lawyer. I'm not saying anything else, But instead, they came in really quickly and kind of got me off guard. And Lucy had like gone somewhere, and so I was concerned about her. Only partially concerned, because as soon as they said like, "Were you here with someone?" I was like, "Lucy Hale. Yep, she's an actress. Here's her phone number. Here's her address." Like if I'm going to jail, she's coming with me.
That's right. Yeah, just threw her right under the bus there.
And by the end, I forget what had happened, but something like it was very. I was like, wait a minute, something feels a little bit off, and I feel like I started to test it. Like the cop was like, "All right, come with me," and I was like, no. And then they were like, "Okay, well." and then he busted out, and they said, "This is punked," and Lucy was like, "You've been punked," and I was just so, I guess whatever fame and notoriety I have or had at the time is still kind of beyond me. So I legit said this, and they cut it out, and I'm so sad that they did. They're like, "You've been punked," and I was like, "What?" And they're like, "You got punked," and I said, like, "Do you mean like the low budget version?" And I was like, do you guys not? Was there no other famous people around? And thankfully they cut that out. But yeah, I got punked.
Shocked they cut that out. Got to be honest, Ian. 2019. So you're 2 years removed from Pretty Little Liars airing, at least. You get to be in one of the best films of the year, Ford vs Ferrari, and you have an 11 episode stint. Maybe you did your own stunts. I don't know. On Chicago Med in the same year. So you were working that year. I have questions about both because I you know,
You remember
was
when
it?
we saw Ford versus Ferrari?
We saw, you know what the 4D is, the D box where you go and you sit and the chair moves.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
we were in Kansas City doing a show and we went out to see Ford versus Ferrari
in the D box.
and we sat in those chairs and it was one of the coolest movie theater experiences of our lives.
I can't imagine a better movie for the D box.
Yeah, it was
like
perfect.
you're in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a James Mangold movie. He's done Wolverine. He's about to do the new Indiana Jones. What's it like working with James Mangold? That cast, just your experience on that film.
It was, I would say, one of the best and sort of like most educational experiences of my life, because I was surrounded by all these other actors, and I was essentially glorified background. Like I had a few more lines. I had a little scene that was ultimately cut for time, and it. I was, you know, I got to watch all of these giant actors work, and what was so amazing and humbling and I guess enlightening was that they loved doing it. They wanted to do the scene over and over and over again. There was no watching like Christian Bale and Matt Damon do a scene where they're trying to figure it out, and they felt on the same level as James Mangold. Like they would swap ideas, and I mean, I think that's why probably if you ever do see me in the movie, which you don't see me a lot, I have just a stupid look on my face because I'm not actually in the scene or acting. I'm just like, wow, oh, that's interesting. What an interesting choice. Even if like, and then they're like, and Ian, now it's your line, and I would just kind of like spit it out and be like, that was terrible. But then, you know, I also was so awesome to see, you know, a bunch of actors that are at like the top of their game, and how down to earth they were. And I remember one morning coming into the hair and makeup trailer, and it was literally just me and Matt Damon, and he's looking at his sides, and I come in and I was kind of, oh, should I leave? Like many people of that level, sometimes they have their own setup. And he didn't. He was in with the rest of the actors, and he literally was like, "Oh, hey, Ian, how you doing?" I'm like, "Good, man. How are you?" And he was like, "Good. How was the weekend?" And shooting the breeze, and you know, we're talking about like, kids, man, they can be tough sometimes, but it's great. So, yeah, I don't have any yet. I might. And he was like, "Oh, good." And it was just, I think I had a better understanding of what it was to be an actor after that movie.
Interesting.
I don't know if that answers your question. And then, by the way, this is a fun story. There was this one scene. It was all shot in LA almost exclusively, which is kind of nuts. Even like, you know, the Le Mans racetrack was in Agua Dulce, you know, the sort of like horse ranch area right outside LA. And some of the cars, there's a scene where they're in the Ferrari factory, and some of the models there, two of them were actually the real cars. Like it was a model that won like the 19 Le Mans, and it was worth something like $25 million.
Holy cow.
And at one point I'm going over to look at it, and this guy who was dressed in like he was in costume, and he was like, "Oh, sorry, back up. Sorry." And basically kind of told me to get away. And I was kind of like, "Excuse me, I'm one of the principal actors. I have 4 lines in this movie." And then I realized he has an earpiece in.
Oh boy.
He's the car's bodyguard.
Yeah.
He was the hired security for the car.
You had that all the time on Pretty Little Liars. Like, don't act like you didn't.
Totally. I mean, actually, let me take that back. Did I ask him? I was like, "Are you a security guard?" But like, it became pretty obvious because he was just displaying a lot of authority for someone who seemingly didn't have it. But
I wonder where you get paid for that.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I'm now curious at switching occupations.
Yeah. Just to hang out with this car.
Chicago Med, did you have to learn? Were you a doctor on the show? Did you have to learn a lot of medical jargon to spout off very quickly?
I had the cushiest job on Chicago Med because I've been very lucky in my career. if that isn't obvious already. Because my friend Tori DeVito was one of the leads at the time. And
she's been on the show. She's wonderful.
You know Tori.
She's a delight. Oh yes, of course. And so she more or less like helped me get the job. And like I remember it came down to, it was, I guess, 2018 maybe. It was Halloween, and I was grilling something in my backyard, and I get a bunch of texts from her, and she said something like, so what do you think? And I was like, about what? And she's like, about the role. And I went, like, just so lost. And she said, have you not checked your email today? And I was like, no, it's a holiday. And she was like, it's Halloween, you done. And then expletive.
Yeah.
And I realized it was an offer to come do this to ARC on Chicago Med. And so I basically showed up, and it was like a grieving husband who, suffers a tragedy and grows close to her character, which was a lot of fun. Although she and I are very close, and there was a romantic scene, and it felt pretty close to what I imagine doing a romantic scene with like a relative would be like, because we were both kind of looking at each other like, this is wrong. This is unnatural. But it was an absolute blast because I could show up, enjoy Chicago, which is an amazing city, and I ate my way through it.
Yeah,
and
deep dish pizza, Italian beef sandwiches. I mean, come on.
I think you can see actually the arc of, I think it was like 11 or 12 episodes, and by the end they were like, okay, it's like, this wardrobe is like, we can't do it anymore. Yeah.
But I will say this: props to you for not checking work email on Halloween.
You don't want to do that.
That is impressive, man. That's impressive right there. That's commitment.
Because I remember hearing this one thing about Bill Murray, that he only has like one phone or something, that he doesn't check email.
Yeah, you gotta leave a message, and his people get back to you. You gotta send him stuff in the mail. He lives in Charleston, South Carolina. Like, he cannot be reached under any circumstances.
I was like, I'm gonna do that too, and then I realized I don't nearly have the resume to be able to do that. And so there have been times where people are like, hey, so are you gonna get that audition in today? I was like, no. And then I realized you open up your email and you're like, oh crap.
Well, it's also 2018 Halloween. You don't have kids. I'm not checking email. It's Halloween. It's Halloween.
Also, when you roll out to LA and you just get Pretty Little Liars like that, you're like, it'll come. I'm not really not out here pounding the pavement. Like, it's coming. Like, I'll check my email when I check it.
Yeah, until it stops coming. And then you're like, hello. Yeah.
So you never went out to LA and had to get another job? Like, you were never like a bartender or waited tables or anything like that?
No, I was very lucky in that sense. I also, for the sake of these, actors that are probably listening to this and being like, this mother, I would also say that at the time, I knew what I was experiencing was really lucky, and I knew that I would have to pay the piper at some point, and that you have to earn it, and as hard as I was working while I was on the show, and it was sort of golden handcuffs. Like, I couldn't really do anything else because it was 9 months out of the year, and the contract was pretty, rigid. And so after that, I was like, oh, now I'm doing the thing that most actors do, which is like, you audition your tail off, you get close, you don't get it, you get the pilot, it doesn't go, and then you get the recurring, and then you're cut out. And so that's what's been happening. And in many ways, I'm really grateful for it, because I think it's hopefully making me better, because to get back up after you're like, oh my gosh, I got this giant pilot with so-and-so attached, and these are the people involved. Like, here we go, back on top, baby, or whatever. And if you put a lot of your self-worth on that, you're going to be sad all the time.
Good word there.
How is self-taping is still a big thing. Is it sticking around? How has it changed kind of your job? Like, I'm assuming you don't have to be in LA or New York all the time for auditions. You're putting yourself on tape and kind of going for whatever comes available. Has it like totally changed what it's like to be an actor right now versus pre-2020?
Oh man. Yeah. I can't imagine what it's like for actors that are just starting out. To the point where, if I were to go back to the drama school that I graduated from and was trying to offer any advice, I don't know what I would say necessarily. Like I would, I'm sure there were still like Zoom casting director meetings or whatever, like meet and greets that I did when I first got there. But in many ways, it's a blessing and a curse, which is I can now live anywhere. I don't live in LA anymore, and that was good for my overall well-being and probably, for my lungs and all that air pollution and whatnot. But I learned very quickly that where my shortcomings were, which was I was really good in a room. I could go in, have an idea of what the character was, and I could riff really well. I could memorize very quickly. But once that was gone, and you had to come up with like a full-fledged performance and create something magnetic and authentic, and then shoot it in your guest room,
Right.
which
That's
is
tough.
it's brutal, and I think that's kind of altered the calculus for a lot of actors. But it's like any bit of adversity that comes your way. It's like, all right, I can quit, I can complain to high heaven about it, which I most certainly have, or I can get better. And so that's kind of been my journey for the past couple of years is just, how do you do something great when you're emoting to two different screens? Like your phone is recording you in the ring light, and like the person you're reading with is usually on your laptop right next to it. And the whole thing's like, my whole family's dead, and then like the Zoom cuts out.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah, we didn't get that one, Ian. If you could go one more from the top, that'd be great.
and the snot coming out of it was really good. Could you get the snot again? That'd be great. Yeah.
Do you think it's ultimately like better for the industry that it's like self-tape now and you can kind of do as many takes as possible? Or is it also that it's like, is there any downside? Like the fact that you could maybe be really good on tape, but then when you get in the room with somebody, you're not good with people. Like, does that make sense? Like, is there,
Oh,
is there,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but
No.
the stuff that always blows my mind is I have not actually had one of these, but where you do the Zoom chemistry read.
Oh my gosh.
Which is
I
like,
can't imagine.
With a delay?
yeah, or because that's when, I don't know how people do it. Apparently they do, and they've had they being, I guess, some shows and movies and whatnot have had some success. But and then you hear horror stories. I have two friends that were cast off of a tape, or because they either don't want to do the legwork, or for whatever reason somebody's cast and they get a set, and the co-star and them have as much chemistry as like a rock and a noodle. So I don't think that analogy made any sense, but
No, it
A
does.
rock and noodle, there's no sparks there. There's none.
Sparks.
That's easy.
Exactly.
That's
There is zero
easy.
flame.
Yeah. Ian, I
Sounds
wanna-
a lot like Cole Sprouse.
a
to
little
me.
bit like Cole Sprouse, and I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to be the guy to say it, but rock
We'll
and a
say it
noodle
for
is
you.
what
We'll say it
That's
for you.
right.
Ian.
You don't worry, Ian. We got you covered. We got
Yeah.
your back. Cole's never been on this show. I do
Never will be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not as long as
Good.
we're around.
Out of sheer spite.
Unless he does a Hallmark movie. So so let's talk Hallmark. You want to talk about chemistry? Your first Hallmark movie. We interview a lot of people on this podcast whose first Hallmark movie they want to skip over and get to the second one. This is your only one that you've done that we know of, and out of the box, it is incredibly special. It does not have the same beats. This is Ghost of Christmas Always you're talking about. It doesn't have the same beats of a Hallmark movie, the same 9-act structure. There is quite a bit of chemistry between you and Kim. There's Reginald VelJohnson. Carl Winslow is the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. I mean, this is an all-star situation. How does we can get into chemistry later. How did you get involved with it? Like, how did you get like asked to go do this, and how quickly were you readily available to say yes? And then when did you realize this is like, I don't know how other Hallmark experiences go, but this one's really, really special.
Yeah, I knew it fairly quickly in that I had seen other. I make myself sound so important right now. Like a couple of other Hallmark scripts had kind of come my way, and it just wasn't. for me, for whatever reason. Some of it was also like timing and schedule, or there's one that it was like in Hawaii and just didn't make sense with, I was moving and I mean, just
oh
on
boy, if it's 2 Tickets to Paradise, can you imagine with Ashley Williams, that movie? Holy cow. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I mean, and now I'm certainly far more, now that I live in the Northeast and we're, neck deep in winter, although it's been a little bit mild. I don't know if they've said like, hey, do you want to go, shoot in Hawaii? I'm like, here, let's do it. I don't even need to see the script. But this I thought was really amazing because it came my way. I saw just the people that were involved, and Reggie and Lori and Kim, who I had actually known because she's been in a long time relationship with a friend of mine from college, and so I saw that she was attached, and I was like, "Ooh, this is already very interesting." And then I read the script, and it did seem to, there was an earnestness about it. Obviously, the situation is very fantastical and it has all of this sort of that stuff that we love in Hallmark movies, that it was sweet, it was romantic, but there was like an earnestness to it. And I also thought it was funny. And so when I talked to the director, Rich Newey, about it, he said something that like really got me excited, which was, we're not doing a Hallmark movie. We're doing an indie film that's going to air on Hallmark.
Wow.
And that was really meaningful because that gave us a lot of freedom, and it removed whatever sort of idea we had of like style or anything like that maybe you've seen in past Hallmark movies. And I thought what was also, so just on a personal level, I had just moved to the East Coast from LA, and they were shooting this close to where I was living at the time. And on top of that, I think there was just a part of me that I was done with a lot of like what LA represented. And I think I had been caught up when I was out there with a bunch of stuff that wasn't as important, like this kind of perpetual hustle culture. And I just wanted to be an actor. And that was seen at times as like you're complacent, lazy, or deserving of harm or something. And when I got here and I did this, all the actors that were involved were there and like were excited to be there. And a lot of the older actors, and they were all like New York theater actors. And this was something that was cool because they got to they like paid their bills and then got to go like workshop this new musical. And so it was really just, it was more than just kind of an acting job. It was like it was a shockingly very like rejuvenating experience. And I think that came across, so I had an absolute blast with it. And I hope that, they make a sequel.
We would love that. It's one of the few movies I would like to see a sequel for.
I'm interested. This was your first Hallmark movie. We've been covering Hallmark and kind of this genre since 2018, and we've seen the genre progress qualitatively. Like this past year, the crop of movies was better than anything we've ever seen. Is that movement, that reputation of these movies getting better, is that out there for people like you that aren't a part of this universe prior to this movie? Like, is the reputation at Hallmark is trying to do a new thing and make really quality work? Is that word leaking outside of the Hallmark universe?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you look at some of the people that have, to put it bluntly, and I say this with all due respect, and I'm so grateful to all the people at Hallmark, but maybe 5 to 10 years ago, if you're doing Hallmark movies, that was sort of the death knell of your career, or it was seen, or it had like a real taboo to it.
Yeah.
And I think there are certain people that have like really paved the way and who bring ultimately the phrase, the cream rises to the top. I think it's true. Like if you look at, I think it's Luke McFarlane. Is that the actor?
Yep.
He's a Juilliard trained actor. He just did a studio movie with Billy Eichner and
Rose. It was hysterical.
And he was great in it. And like, I think if you come and you want to work and you don't just want to like get a paycheck or something, I think it can be a really meaningful experience. I think, yes, there's, I know there was a whole sort of change up in the powers that be at Hallmark, and I think they're trying to broaden and expand the stories that are told. Also, like edginess. I mean, we're not going to show like gunshot wounds, or like on Hallmark, but like Santa's not going to come in and have a
lay
fling
waste. Man.
Yeah, exactly. But that is getting out. I mean, a lot of the actors that I've interacted with did that whole thing where they were like, yeah, no, I had a great time. And it was really creatively fulfilling because you're working, it's like nonstop and it's kind of, run and gun. And I think it is changing. And this thing that I may or may not have done, the people involved are like really top notch. And
man, can't wait.
And so I think Hallmark is saying like, great, we want to stick to, let me speak for Hallmark, like we've talked about this, I haven't, but we want to keep the heart and soul of what people love about it, while also change it up and tell stories that are not only fun, but maybe more challenging and broaden people's worldview. And also like sometimes, especially when it comes to things that are comedic, it can rub people the wrong way because sometimes comedy has to have an edge.
Yeah.
And Hallmark has in the past, under past management, we'll say, it had like no edge.
Right.
And now I think people are trying to, the folks that are there are trying to make it, when I say edgier, again, it's all with perspective.
Yeah.
But like, but say like, no, there can be not only just like, oh, happenstance, like people can be angry or there can be conflict or something, and then they get resolved and people fall in love and families come together and there's a messiness that is sort of embraced, as opposed to, like I fell in love with a Christmas tree grower.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think Cole Sprouse could hack it on
Hallmark? I think he would kill it. I think he would come in. In fact,
That's kind.
Man. You know what? He should come in and we'll play Nemesis.
Oh man, that would be wonderful. We'd
He's like a
we'd
rival
love that.
Christmas tree grower.
Let me ask you this, Ian. So you did Hallmark 15-day shoots. You're going lots of different locations. How long did it take you to shoot an episode of Pretty Little Liars? Like, what's that?
That was also pretty quick. I mean, granted, that was all like very contained because
one location. Which one's harder? Like, which one's harder from like memorizing lines, getting through pages, same character that just keeps going, or this character's arcing in 15 days? Which one's more difficult for you as an actor?
Ooh, more difficult. I'd actually say Hallmark, in that it's, sometimes, especially if you got to keep the mood and the energy up, and like it's that pivotal scene where you finally get with, Kim and I finally come together and this is the moment, but it's also -5 outside. And then you have people, because it's not on a soundstage like, Pretty Little Liars on Warner Brothers and whatnot. You have people walking by like, you guys shooting something? And you're like, God, okay, God, And so, and sometimes this all comes at the end of the shoot. You're running behind and you just got to make it work. So I think Hallmark, any actor or any person that's like, oh yeah, Hallmark, it's just soft. I'm going to go in. It's like a little breeze. And it's like, no, they can be brutal. So
I like that because that means that you're still better than Cole Sprouse.
That's
He's
right.
doing Riverdale.
And I've said
Hallmark's
that for
a lot
years
harder
I've
than
said
Riverdale. So, and that the proof is in the pudding there. Really quickly, I do want to talk about a show that you did 12 episodes in 2022 that I have no idea what it is. And that's just where we live now with so many streaming services and stuff like that. What is Long Slow Exhale? The cover looks great.
Yeah, Long Slow Exhale was, it's unfortunate because it's not seeing life in a second season, but it was on Spectrum, which is, I guess it's a cable platform, but they were also rolling out a streaming service. I don't know what the deal with that is now.
Man.
But that was really fun. It was a drama that I'm sure you could still find somewhere, but
starring Josh Lucas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Famke Janssen and Rose Rollins from the L Word, and that was one of those situations where a bunch of people that I had worked with before, it like all kind of came together. I'd worked with Rose on this one pilot years ago. You know, Josh Lucas and I had a brief scene in Ford vs Ferrari, and you know, and it was just kind of made sense. It was also an offer, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. You know, and it's a script that's actually good, even better. And then I read sort of the breakdown, and it says like a coach who has an affair with a player, and I was like, oh no, this is wait, am I getting typecast now as
no.
the guy with the students? So that's where that is. I hope that people find it and enjoy it, but it's not seeing.
I did learn not only that, but your IMDb photo is you holding the Teen Choice Award.
I just saw
surfboard for 2014. So that's exciting for all of us.
I think I need to go in and change it. Because
I think what you did is I think during this interview you went in and changed it to the surfboard as just another
little jab at Cole Sprouse.
I thought I changed it to one, you know, because I was like, oh yeah, like that was a long time ago. I look much older now. And so I was like, oh, let me find an older but still attractive photo. And I haven't taken any sort of like glamour or, you know, meaningful publicity shots. And I had this one from a premiere where I have like a mustache. And I was like, if I'm trying to break out of the you know, pervert typecast, I should probably not do this. But
and you are trying to break out of that?
That's right.
Is that what I understand?
Yeah.
You know, if the story's good and the location's great, I don't know.
Cole Sprouse could never play a pervert.
You're not above playing a pervert. We'll do a quick screenshot right now. We'll point to you, and then you can make it your IDB. Right? Are you ready for this?
We're gonna with a microphone on my face.
We'll just move the microphone out of the way. Move it out of the way. Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
There we go.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we'll get that to you, buddy.
You're going to want that maximum as quickly as possible. Last question, then we'll go to the rapid fire, which we didn't tell you about, but it's exactly what it sounds like. You talk a lot about like, oh, the script isn't good. It is good. Have you ever wanted to write or direct yourself?
You know, I haven't really had a desire to. I have not had a desire to direct. I've had a desire to produce and then, you know, star in. I still am very smitten with performing and you know, I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and that was fun. But then I also realized there's the difference between somebody who is inherently a writer and somebody who is capable of writing. Right. And I was the latter. And I said, okay, cool. We check this box. I am very much in the ballpark of I still love what I do, and whether it's, you know, a movie, a TV show, or a play, or an audiobook, you know, like I still love playing make believe and then being slightly compensated for it.
I love
Would you do the theater?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I technically have a BFA in drama or American theater. I don't know.
We know what that is.
Yeah. Bachelor's of Fine Arts.
A Bachelor of Fine Arts. And so, yeah, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I think it was harder to do in Los Angeles, but now that I'm, you know, within spitting distance of Manhattan, it might be a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, I'm just into make believe.
I love it. We're ready for
rapid fire. We each get to ask you 3 questions similar to what we've been doing, but different in that they can be about anything, which is similar to what we've been doing, but different. Are you ready?
Yes.
You go, Dan.
Your dream director to work for?
Oh. Ooh. Either Coen brothers.
That's a good one.
I mean, there's, you know, Spielberg and all the usual greats, but yeah, probably Coen brothers.
Coen brothers, good answer.
Yeah. What's your go-to comfort food?
Well, I was about to make a snarky comment. I was like, well, it doesn't come on a plate; it's in a bottle. No, but my go-to comfort food is probably anything Italian and covered in cheese.
Deep dish pizza.
Yeah,
Lasagna.
lasagna, cake, cheese covered cake. Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
We'll call it cheesecake for this.
Okay.
What what is your guilty pleasure TV right now? Like movie or TV show? And guilty pleasure, I don't like if you watch it, enjoy it. It doesn't have to be guilty, but what are you turning on as mindless fun entertainment for you?
Oh, I wouldn't say it was mindless per se, but one's ability to watch television goes down when one has a child, as I'm
Yep.
sure you all know.
Yep.
We just started watching Last of Us.
Yes,
and,
dude. You and I
I'm-
are starting the Last of Us podcast because I got nobody on the studio's seen it but
Yeah,
me, and I come in every day like, did you guys see what just happened? It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
And Nick Offerman is like
Oh
a
my gosh.
personal hero of mine, and I thought this last episode that I saw of his, we're I guess we're a little behind, I guess when it came out, but he's a guy that's like, yeah, I could just do comedy, and instead I decided to move into this space, and he's done it so well.
Man,
I'm
that
proud of
episode
the
was
person I've never met.
just gut wrenching and just one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen of any kind.
Truly, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Phenomenal.
In a one-on-one competition between you and Garfield the cat, who could eat more lasagna?
I would say, I mean, one would think me, considering my stomach is larger than a typical house cat's. It depends on maybe how hungry or sad I was. Because if it's a little bit of like, oh, I haven't worked in a while, and oh, you know
Right.
what? I just went to the gym and I'm ravenous, I could crush a whole slab of lasagna.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Screw you, Garfield. Bring it on.
Screw you, Garfield.
Screw you, Garfield. You hear that? A list of enemies. Garfield, Cole Sprouse. Got it.
I think you may have mentioned earlier, but the TV series based on Ghost of Christmas Always starts when on the Hallmark Channel?
Whenever they want to make it, because I will show up. Yeah.
No, my third question is that it seems like you're doing amazing and don't want any part of LA anymore, and I think that's admirable and awesome if that's what you like. Is there a food or something that you miss in LA that you just cannot get here on the East Coast?
Oh, I miss the friends and people that we unfortunately left behind and we're trying to convince to leave. But if we had a whole other hour to dedicate to LA's dining scene, I would do it. I miss, let's see, if I had a perfect day for food, like every meal, I would start off at a place called Amara Kitchen in East LA for breakfast.
Okay.
I'd then go to Father's Office, which is a burger joint beer place
I gotta
on
write
the
these
west
down.
side. Oh yes, and their Father's Office burger for lunch, and then for dinner I'd go to probably Bestia, which is an Italian joint
Man.
in downtown. And that's like a Monday, and then Tuesday I'd go, and then we could do that every week, and then I would have a heart attack
Man.
by Friday.
Father's Office burgers. Next time we're in LA,
I love
Brandon,
that.
It's
I
happening.
love that. Finally, someone
Yes.
didn't say sushi. Wow.
Everyone from LA says sushi.
Always freaking
Everyone.
sushi. with those
Nobu,
people.
Katsuya, one of
We
those.
get it. We
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
My last one is: are you listening to anything that you're really enjoying right now? Whether it's music, a podcast, an audio book of sorts.
Ooh. I am trying not to listen to as much news, only because I think I did that in 2020, and I was like, why do I live in dread fear at all times? Am I listening to anything? I really like Ryan Holiday's podcast. And some
Panda's a big Ryan Holiday guy.
Okay.
yeah. And let's see, music, Marcus Mumford's latest album.
All right.
Mhm.
I just discovered I come in and out of like the country music fandom, I suppose. Like a couple of years ago, I was like really, still am, but like, really loved Casey Musgraves and all the
Okay.
stuff
Oh,
she was
yeah.
making. And then kind of like, went on to other music, my taste changed, whatnot. And then recently I discovered Luke Combs.
Yeah.
And I was like, do people know who he is? And the answer is everybody.
Yes.
Like, And oh God, what was the song? I started crying the other night. I was making, I just put on like, whatever, you go to the Apple, whatever, and just hit shuffle songs. And I think the song is Even Though I'm Leaving or something. It was one of his first, and it's about him basically like, his dad or something, and eventually it ends with like him saying goodbye to his father for the last, and I was crying. He made me cry in my kitchen while making salmon.
Well, it's good to know country music's still doing that, though.
That's right. Yeah. Still talking
if you're not crying to country music, what are you doing?
That's
right. The point.
Right.
Or just having a good time. There's nothing in between. You're either partying hard or you're crying hard.
Or crying hard.
Nothing
Those
in
are your
between.
options. That's right.
Did we do it?
We did it. Ian, sir, you are a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much. And I don't think we've ever interviewed someone as self-deprecating as you. Dude, you haven't. There's a reason that you get all these roles. You're incredibly gifted, incredibly articulate, and we just can't thank you enough for the time.
You don't stumble into a
That's
decky.
right. You're no Cole Sprouse, I'll say that much.
Yeah, well, thank you. I've had an absolute blast. Can't wait to be back. And when this thing maybe comes out or it doesn't, wink wink,
That's right.
I'll be back.
You can come promo it and actually talk about it. I
love that.
Perfect. The best.
I love that. The TV series, right?
Yeah, it's that TV series, but not a TV series. And maybe it's, I don't know. I'm trying. How many red herrings can I throw in a single sentence? That's what I want to do.
All of them. Well, thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. And may we be the first to wish you here in February Merry Christmas.
Oh, amazing.
Deck the Hallmark is a Bramble Jam podcast. Is produced by Aaron Shea. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.